Hey, listen to Wrestling Roundup on FreeFM, ArrowFM, and NPR. As always, I'm Grady, and live on Skype we got Josh.
Hey!
It's finally happening. We're getting our women's tag team unification title match. I'm kicking it off with that.
Yeah, just a couple weeks left of having separate belts.
You know, I could sit here and talk about how much it makes sense, but I feel like we've harped on that for 5 months. Or however
We've
long.
harped on that since they introduced the NXT version.
Yeah. And, you know, you bring up the NXT Women Tag Team Champions in the draft, allowing it to happen. It makes pretty good organic sense. Unfortunately, I'm gonna have to assume that, the newly minted Rousey and Baszler are probably going to stand on top of this division.
Yeah, it's very unlikely that the NXT champions take down the WWE champions simply because of Ronda Rousey.
Yeah, I love Alba Fire. I love Isla Dawn. I think they're doing great stuff. But as you say, Ronda Rousey's on the other team, not known for losing in many situations. Been pushing for this Rousey-Baszler tag team run for a while, finally gets the belts. I'm imagining they're going to run with these for at least a couple of months, if not longer, before they eventually either go on their separate ways or do something else with them.
Yeah. It still would be fun to see them show up on NXT, though.
Yeah, I'm hoping that, you know, obviously since we're removing those belts from NXT, and we do have a couple of NXT women's tag teams still ready to go down there, it doesn't harm anybody to have them show up on NXT, beat up a team and head off. Or they'll shock us all and just have Fire and Dawn win. Yeah, it's not happening. Oh, so many things. We were talking about NXT championships. Let's stick around in that. Baron Corbin, he defeats Ilya Dragunov, and he earns himself the number one contendership that he kind of already came down and declared was his anyway.
Yeah. He just made it a formality, and he had a good match with Ilya. I think it'll be a great match between Hayes and Corbin. And honestly, this is probably one of the best matches that they could put up for Carmelo Hayes right now. I mean, he just got off his feud with Breaker. There really wasn't anybody particularly set up to be his next challenger.
Mm-hmm.
Why not have a stopgap of being dependable Baron Corbin?
Yeah, NXT Gold Rush coming up 2 weeks, I believe, 2 events back to back. And this one is going to headline the second week alongside Thea Hale's Women's Championship opportunity that we already knew about, and an NXT Tag Team Championship with contenders to be determined from week 1, of which the main event is gonna see exactly what Bron Breakker wanted.
Yep. That week, Seth Rollins is going to have quite the interesting week. Because apparently he's defending it on Raw, defending it on NXT, and then turning around and defending it against Finn Balor that same week. Obviously that means Bron Breakker isn't winning the title. But it's still going to be one hell of a week. And would be a great way of putting the title on Finn if they wanted to go that quickly with the title change. Because you could say that the 3 matches in 1 week exhausted him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm slightly shocked that we are getting the match down on NXT, but it is going to draw some eyes for sure to Gold Rush week 1. And yeah, you know, they talked about this title when it was coming out that it was going to be the Workhorse Championship, the Fighting Championship. It's because Roman Reigns isn't defending his often enough, and clearly in storyline Seth Rollins took that as a challenge and is deciding to just defend it every day of the week. Up, down, left, right, and everywhere.
And sometimes pressing BA and start.
Sometimes. I'm with you, though. There's no way Braun ends up winning this match.
No. It could also be a part of the build-up to the cash-in. Think about it. That week, you will have Seth doing an open challenge on Raw, Braun Breaker, who's intense as heck, and then Finn Balor, who's probably going to be as close to being in demon mode without being in demon mode. Because I don't think he'll pull out the demon for a B-ish level pay-per-view. I really think it's an A-level pay-per-view, but it's still classified as not one of the big four. So, you could definitely see somebody winning the NXT, briefcase, and immediately cashing in on Seth Rollins that same night, after surviving that week-long hellscape.
Yeah, it's going to be a rough one for Rollins, but I do enjoy seeing the title belt put up on the line, and I don't want to make a habit of it going down to NXT just because, although it puts shine on like Braun Breaker, it's a foregone conclusion that the person that's challenging for it down there isn't gonna win. It's not the same as Dolph Ziggler going down and challenging for the NXT Championship, where that makes a bit of sense if Dolph wins it, runs around with it for a little while, and then hands it on back. This is your big world championship of one of your two major flagship brands. If anybody was from NXT gonna pull off the shock win, it probably is Braun, and even then, I'm not rating his chances very high.
No, honestly, I'd say it probably ends in a disqualification. I could possibly see a clean finish with Rollins winning. I think it's just going to be something that's going to be, they're going to have a good match. It'll be a long one, like 15, 20 minutes. And at the end, Braun Breaker will probably spear the living boots off of him after losing the match.
Yeah, it should be a good one for sure. Jumping over to SmackDown, because I'm just jumping around everywhere at this point. Austin Theory left without necessarily an obvious number one contender for his United States Championship, and Paul Heyman saw a gap and decided to weasel, I don't know if it's an associate, weasel a co-worker into that spot and get Jey Uso a lovely United States Championship match.
Again, just another element in the Bloodline feud. You have Jey, who's just distraught of the whole situation. He doesn't know what to do. But he's pretty sure he doesn't trust Paul Heyman. And he has good reason for not to. I mean, Heyman has a history of always turning on his charges. And in fact, he's done it on Roman already in this storyline, but turned immediately back to him. But it's just, I like the building, and they're slowly getting to the point where Jey finally snaps. I still think we have Jimmy versus Roman at Money in the Bank, but we're slowly building, I think, into the climax of the story. I think at some point down the road, we are going to get another Jey Uso versus Roman. It's just a matter of if the title's going to be on the line or not, because who knows at that point. But I do think that's what's going to happen. But everything was just beautifully told. Also, the Roman Reigns will be the final Universal Champion.
Yeah.
And the only person to have held all three versions of the title.
Yeah. He loves himself a rainbow trophy cabinet.
Yep.
Oh, three-color
red,
rainbow.
The blue, and the gold.
Yeah, it's like just looking at the end of this match, other than the fact that Pretty Deadly and Austin Theory are rolling deep at the moment, which is something interesting I'm sure to talk about as it develops, but yeah, it continues that Jey Uso trying to not have his brothers fight each other, ultimately it costing him the United States Championship, as one of his brothers does boot him in the face. But that really does seem to be what it is. It's, Solo wants to go after Jimmy, Jimmy wants to go after Solo, and you got just Jay stuck in the middle, and Roman kind of laughing off to the side. It's a battle of three brothers, unless you're going to get Solo to defect.
Yeah, Solo I think is a wild card in it, and it's definitely possible that they could be building to that too. Think about that. It could be what causes Jay to beat Roman, is that Solo finally takes down the tribal chief.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I do like the wrinkle that they threw in with the whole Roman wants you to be the next tribal chief with Jay. And I really do think they've built it to the point where Jay and Jimmy both can stand on their own now.
Mm-hmm.
That they don't have to be a tag team anymore. Although saying that probably means they should have been drafted to different brands, but that's neither here nor there.
Gotta finish the story.
Yeah, you gotta finish the story. And I just want to see where it goes from here.
Yeah, there's also another one of those, and they're doing it with the Bloodline a lot, because it's probably the easiest storyline to do it. I'm just calling it out every time I see it. Another one of those beautiful story through threads of the episode. We start off Paul Heyman and Jey Uso telling him he's got that United States title match. We see segments at the back where Jey wants Paul Heyman removed from the Bloodline. We see Sami Zayn talking to Jey about life after the Bloodline, and then culminating in the match at the end and the storytelling after the fact. It's written like an episode rather than a hodgepodge put together thing. And I love me a good episode of television. Well, we are roughly halfway through the show. That means it is time to go into our entrance theme of the week with Money in the Bank. Coming up, there's a specific superstar who loves talking about all of his money, and that is our theme, Shane McMahon.
Here we go, money talk.
Here comes the money.
And you're back with the Wrestling Roundup on FreeFM, ArrowFM, and MPR. Where to go next? I'm looking at the tag team division. It's heating up quite a bit. Obviously, Kevin Owens, Sami Zayn sitting at the top. They're still holding the red belts. They're still holding the blue belts. They're still calling themselves the Undisputed Champions. Quite a few teams on Raw looking to change that, and quite a few teams on SmackDown as well. Pretty Deadly, the OC. Looks like everybody wants a little bit of a fight with Owens and Zayn.
We had so long of an issue with the tag team division being so barren, which ultimately helped the Usos reign for as long as they did.
Mm.
And now you have Zayn and Owens thrown together here for the purpose of the storyline, but then you have Imperium coming up, with or without the injury too. And then you have Pretty Deadly. You had the Viking Raiders. Unfortunately lost one of our budding tag teams with the injury to Braun Strowman.
But I think
you always have the New Day hanging around.
It brings back up the question, is it time to split the two titles back off and have a tag team championship for Raw and a tag team championship for SmackDown?
I will say no. I will say instead, debut a single title. Get rid of the two set of titles and just have the tag team champions go from one to the other.
Yeah, I think we're due new titles for sure. Obviously, that seems to be the theme at the moment around the place. Having received 4 new championship belts in short succession, and I'm sure the women's tag team belt will also get a bit of either a redesign or some sort of belt merging. The only sort of decision is, do you merge them into one, or do you split them off and then redesign them? I think, as you say, putting them together into one ensures the healthiness of the tag team division going forward, because all it takes is a couple of bad months where you've only got one tag team on one show, because maybe you did too many splitting up storylines, or maybe there's a few injuries here or there, and you're just stuck with the champions with nothing to do. Versus if you've got the traveling champions, then they can at least be defending them over on Raw, or they could be defending them somewhere else. So there's definitely benefits of properly unifying them into one championship. Don't know if that's what they'll end up doing, or if they do actually want two distinct sets with proper lack of separation. It's hard to know exactly where WWE want to go under their current division or current vision.
I do think that a lot of the problem was, in fact, having the two titles diluted their titles, much in the same way we complained about how having the second NXT women's tag titles diluted the potential pull for women tag teams.
Yeah, you either end up with a healthy division of 6 or 7 teams, or you end up with a division of 4 and a division of 3 kind of thing. It's always going to be the case when a line in the sand is drawn within a division like that, compared to if you look at something like introducing a secondary title like the Intercontinental or the US or anything like that. That doesn't split your division, it just gives an additional goal to the division. And so brand splitting the tag team championships is a definite cutting down the middle of a healthy division. And as you say, will probably lead to 2 less healthy divisions.
We should talk about the women's tag team titles.
That is a good segue, as I was rapidly trying to scroll to find them. Yes, Rhea Ripley getting herself a brand new belt, as did Asuka. A couple of white straps on what is basically the World Championship and the WWE Championship, looking pretty nice.
More uniformity. It makes them stand even more of a even playing field with the guys. And the fact that they're calling them the WWE Women's Championship, that's Rhea Ripley's, or the Asuka's, and then the WWE Women's World Championship, that's Rhea Ripley's. I just love that the whole thing. It is what the women's revolution strove for, and is finally achieving. The women are basically on the same pedestal as the men.
Yep, same way that we have what I presume will eventually become the WWE Championship and the World Heavyweight Championship. If you rewind, I don't even know how far back you have to rewind for this. Let's say at least 20 years, you got your WWE Tag Team Championship and you got your World Tag Team Championship. It's a great way to split things, and as you say, it makes them just as important. That WWE Women's Championship, just as important as the WWE Championship. The Women's World Championship, just as important as the World Heavyweight Championship. And yeah, great people to be standing at the top of the divisions at that time as well. Means we didn't need to do any weird title switches with the draft or anything like that. It ultimately worked itself out pretty well.
Which was probably one of our theories anyway. So, yeah, I mean, the lineage stuff is still being carried on, and also another thing that came out with the segment with Rhea Ripley was we're getting a stopgap in the Cody Rhodes feud with Brock Lesnar in the form of Dominic Mysterio.
Yeah, he's decided he wants to go get his butt kicked.
Yeah. Should be a fun match. And it's the most over face versus the most over heel in the company. By far. And so that should be fun. I think anytime the crowd, I think the crowd will be a hot crowd for that match, especially with it being in London. I London's crowd is going to be nuts. But let's just put it as simple as that. It's going to be a crazy show. If Clash at the Castle is anything to go on, and this being a bigger, more important pay-per-view, which I believe has replaced the Survivor Series as the fourth member of the Big Four anyway. But that's neither here nor there.
We'll just call it a Big Five and move on.
So yeah, I think this match could potentially end up being match of the night, and that's saying something with a match like Finn Balor versus Seth Rollins on it.
Yeah, for me, it's always hard to topple the Money in the Bank ladder matches themselves. Obviously, we've had good years and we've had bad years with those. But you're right, in terms of pure and utter crowd reactions, this will be it. Everybody is going to be thoroughly behind Cody Rhodes. Everybody is going to be thoroughly opposed to Dominic Mysterio. As you say, the most over. I feel like it should be called under for a heel, but hey. Everybody is running hot into that feud. The outcome is most likely obvious, but it also means that all four of the Judgment Day, presumably, going to be finding themselves having a match at Money in the Bank. You know, we got Finn Balor taking on the World Heavyweight Championship. We got Rhea Ripley probably defending her Women's World Championship. You got Dominic taking on Cody, and you got Damian Priest earning himself a spot in the Money in the Bank briefcase match as well. So everything's coming up Judgment Day.
It should be fun watching everything play out. And I think there's more of a chance of Dominic winning the match than you think.
Okay.
But I think it's solely because we may see an appearance of Brock Lesnar.
Fair. It won't be on Dominic's own merit.
No. It'll either be Brock or it'll be Rhea that gives him the win. But it could also be the first time we see Brandy in the WWE.
That is true. She has been absent since Cody Rhodes' signing and re-debut. And Rhea Ripley doesn't seemingly have herself any obvious opponents lined up for Money in the Bank. Got a couple weeks before we get there, but no massive things in the wings at the moment. Compared to if you jump across to Asuka, she's still got to finish herself off with Bianca Belair, and now Charlotte Flair's come back and staken a claim, and it looks like there's a few people who want a bit of a kerfuffle over that title.
Yeah, there's a line forming, and Charlotte says it starts with her. Also, I've heard rumors of a potential heel turn, not just with Bianca, which we said probably yesterday, but also with both of the Street Profits, not just Montez. I have heard rumors of that. Those with a grain of salt, as always. But yeah, that would be an interesting to see the Street Profits as a heel. That would also give them making them a number one contender for Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn.
Yeah, we love a good rumor because it lets us discuss, the possibilities and figure stuff out. And yeah, I think it's Bianca's path is pretty clear. She's already done the whole kind of reasonable. I feel like most people's heel turns are reasonable. Of like, why is Charlotte getting into step in here? Surely I get the next shot. Makes a lot of sense, but can definitely turn into a bit of a heel character there. We knew it was coming. We knew we wanted it. Montez been getting a little bit of that too. Why not flip Dawkins if they don't want to break up the Street Profits? And I can definitely see them capturing Tag Team Championship gold if it's not going to go over to Imperium, which, with injuries may not end up happening. So who knows? The field of play is wide open. As long as Charlotte doesn't just win the title off Asuka and we all cry. Alright, that's pretty much all we've got time for. Is there anything else you want to slide in the last 30 seconds?
Yeah, unfortunately, you were right. My girl,
I love hearing it.
Didn't.
You know, I love being told I'm right. That's all. You tried to give her the whole win. Maybe she gets into the last chance qualifier. But, yeah, we'll see how that Money in the Bank ladder match plays out. A couple of weeks from now as well, we'll run down the entire card, and I'm sure your pick for that match will have changed. So let's wait and see what that holds for us. Otherwise, we are out of time for this week. It's been great talking to you.
Baby.
You can visit our Facebook page, facebook.com/wrestling R&D Upper, our Twitter page, twitter.com/wrestling R&D Upper, our YouTube page, youtube.com/wrestling R&D Up, and we will catch you next week.